everyone, and welcome to another edition of Wednesday here on ChronoSpeakeasy.com. I am Paul, joined with Rob Nordberg for a very special review of yet another first issue of Captain America.
There's so many.
There are. I was thinking about that.
Remember 15 years ago when numbers meant something?
I know. Well, now you have to pay attention. Now you have to pay attention to the volume. Like,
or the
issue
subtitle
1.
or the year it came out.
Yeah.
It's like hard to find stuff
It's like,
now.
what was it, volume 3? Volume 4? It's like, I don't know. It's when Cap came back from the dead again. Or came back from being, I don't know, the super soldier serum sucked out of his body and then put back in, or a cosmic cube rewriting his DNA, or coming back from being submerged in a cosmic cube while an evil weird twin masqueraded as you.
So before we get into the review of the newest Captain America #1, I must have missed when Sharon Carter got old.
Oh, really?
But it throws me off.
Oh, yeah, she's been old for a while.
Every time I see her. She has been old for a while. But I must have missed like when the transition happened because, oh man, every time she pops up, I'm like, oh god, Sharon.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel. Like when they were both old, it was like whatever, they're an old couple. But now that he's young and like when they kiss, I'm like, it's like I'm watching somebody kiss their nana.
Yeah, and it's not that she's just like older. She looks like old. Like they draw, like everybody makes sure to draw all the wrinkles and stuff. Like she's.
I mean, it's basically.
She has aged.
I feel like I'm looking at Aunt May.
Yeah.
In like a tight white bodysuit, and it makes me uncomfortable. But
Weird.
yeah, so I think that was back in the Rick Remender run when they were in the Arnim Zola Funhouse, alternate dimension.
Yeah.
Sadly,
It's
she
weird
did not get
because
the benefit of the Cosmic Cube.
I read most of that arc, but I never finished it. And because of that, there's a lot of weird Captain America like throwbacks that just go right over my head.
You know, I'll be honest, as far as Captain America goes, I think it kind of went downhill after Ed Brubaker.
For sure. Even though there has been good stuff, Brubaker was like peak Captain America.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, because I like Rick Remender. I just don't know if I like him for Captain America.
Yeah, I always say I like him for when he would always take like a team that nobody really cared about, and he would write them going to areas that are like forgotten. Like, oh yeah, I forgot about this weird little planet or sub area or something in the Marvel universe, and that was fun. Like Uncanny X-Force, or he wrote Secret Avengers for a while, right?
Yeah, and then there's also Uncanny Avengers.
Yeah, so like all of that stuff. He tapped on a bunch of weird stuff like Age of Apocalypse and weird criminal city underground or wherever the hell that shit was.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Team books he's good with. I just don't. I think you have to be a special type of writer for Captain America. And obviously, for me, the top two being Ed Brubaker and Mark Waid.
Yeah. Although I will say that first issue of Remender's Captain America, that's the issue where he kept like having the flashbacks to the 20s when he was growing up, right?
Oh, right, and his dad
and they
beating
kept saying
his mom.
You gotta like keep standing up or something like that.
That was a very strong
that.
issue. I mean, don't get me wrong, he definitely has like a good grasp on the character. I think it was just I think just maybe the arc that he had set out for Steve. And also
seeing him in that environment was weird.
Yeah, and I think seeing him depowered again, because that even happened in the Brubaker run. So it's like, how many times are we going to see him either be weak, like skinny, but yet look young, or skinny and old? Like, it's just, I feel like there should be some sort of like mandate where if you're going to revisit some trope, you have to wait like a few years. Like, well, yeah, I understand, Rick, you want to do this thing with Cap, but Brubaker just did it 3 years ago. You got another 6 before we can do the.
It's also weird too, because like when Cap's depowered, he's not that different.
Right, and that's one of the things that I liked about Captain America is that it's he's the same with or without the serum. It's just, I don't know. I guess sort of certain plot points kind of get tired when they're used so frequently. Hopefully, with the new creative team, that won't happen anytime soon. And yeah, I have a lot to say about this issue, but just to sort of kind of bring people up to speed, after the Brubaker run and Rick Remender making Cap old and Sharon disturbingly old and Sam Wilson, the Falcon, becoming the new Cap, and then this whole Secret Empire thing happened where Cap, through the power of the Cosmic Cube, was able to come back as a young man, but a young, strong man who had grown up under the shadow of Hydra. And eventually you kind of learned that this Cap had always been part of Hydra and, thought that Red Skull was abusing it, wanted to make everything better, took over the country, another war broke out, and somehow Cap, good Cap, the Cap we all know and love, was in the cube. Bucky brought him out. Good Steve fought bad Steve. I don't know how they're able to coexist. I probably shouldn't even question the science at this point, but the evil.
Yeah, let's just say Captain America has it hasn't been easy to follow for a while.
No. And so basically, and I'm getting a super duper condensed Reader's Digest version.
Waid's run was fantastic. Right,
and I was going to say that having Mark Waid coming back to write Captain America was great. And in a lot of ways, the issue we're about to review kind of feels like a direct sequel to Secret Empire, whereas the Mark Waid sort of kind of feels like this nice like intermission, like a nice pause of Cap, traveling the country and and anytime I get to see Cap in a diner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always
sold.
down with that.
Yeah.
I feel like it was, we haven't really had any direct, I mean, I haven't been reading as much Marvel, but we haven't had a real clear, direct kind of follow-up to Secret Empire, have we? Based off like what you've read. Like I said, I'm not reading nearly as much Marvel, but
all I know is there's like a countdown to infinity. Wolverine's back with hot butter knives, and I don't know. It's certain things I'm steering clear from, but Captain America, for good or ill, I will always follow the shield. To quote Bucky or Steve, whoever said it first, I'm with you to the end of the line. And I feel like my patience has been rewarded because we were able to get Mark Waid and Chris Samney. That run was great. I guess it's over. It seems like I would rather have a short, great arc than a long, drawn out arc. But yeah, so now we have is it Lionel or Linnell Francis Yu who's doing the artwork?
Yeah, I've heard it pronounced many times and I always forget.
The sad
I would
thing
just
is
say Lionel.
Lionel with the ladle.
Yeah, everybody knows who he is. Let's be real. Right.
Yeah. And writing this is I'm so sorry. I'm going to butcher this name too. Ta-Nehisi Coates.
So what I say it a little faster usually, but that's how I would pronounce it.
I know you don't say it as white as I do.
No, I mean it's definitely as white, just faster.
Oh, okay. There's different dialects of white apparently. So you're learning so much when you listen to Wednesday.
He's only written at this point Black Panther, correct? Comic book wise?
Yes.
He is an acclaimed essayist and writer of books. And
he's a very good writer. And I was very excited when he was announced to be writing Black Panther. Because, his essays are great. If you ever get a chance to read We Were 8 Years in Power, which is a series of essays before and during the Obama administration. It's another great book, Between the World and Me. But yeah, he's just... It's just nice that Marvel decided to have a talented, educated, outspoken black man write Black Panther. Someone who is, very political in his writing and, kind of taking on a character like Black Panther is so important, and I feel it's equally as important that he is writing Captain America because, you and I both know, and a lot of people won't agree with this, that Captain America has always been political. It's always been a political comic.
For sure.
I mean, its genesis was political. I mean, he's punching Adolf Hitler in the face of the first issue.
Bold stance. Bold stance.
Well, what's amazing is that there were actual Nazi sympathizers who were protesting Timely Comics when that issue came out because we weren't engaged in World War II yet. And
I know that's similar. I remember reading stuff about when Charlie Chaplin released The Great Dictator in like '39.
And people
weren't a fan.
Yeah,
I mean, people were fans. I would like to think most people were fans.
Right.
But yeah.
So it always kind of like warms my heart. Not that there are bigoted jerks out there, but anytime you see people get upset about a Captain America comic, I'm like, this is good. This is a great way to carry on the torch for the Sentinel of Liberty.
And when it's political, not when he's saying Hail Hydra.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. And I feel like while this is only the first chapter of this run, I think it's off to a pretty good start. So I don't know where you want to begin with as far as writing or the art. I'm definitely excited to talk about the art because I know you and I kind of have a varying opinion on the art of this issue.
Yeah, I mean, we can start there if you want. So
it's a visual medium. It's the first thing you see.
Yeah, so right after I read this issue and I messaged people, my first comment was, I feel like I've grown out of my love of Lionel Francis Yu. And that's not to say that I think he's a bad artist. It's that back in the day when I saw his art, or saw that he was drawing something, I got very excited. Like Ultimate Wolverine vs. Hulk. That was like, I remember that first issue came out, I was like, this is badass as hell. One of my favorite X-Men arcs towards the end of the 90s, Eve of Destruction?
Yep, Eve of Destruction.
Yep.
That was my introduction to him.
He draws a bunch of really badass Magneto, which I respect. But I think it could also just become coming from Chris Samnee drawing Captain America in a very modern throwback style of Cap, where everything's very like bright and just the artwork looks optimistic. And looking through it now, like the art is great. Like he's a fucking good artist, but Cap's got like dead eyes. He's got no pupils.
Well, that's a fair critique. I'll give you that. Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned Eve of Destruction because my earliest memory of Yu's art was from that arc. But the first thing that always stands out is that that like full page image of Captain America when the reporters are interviewing Cap about like, why aren't you going after Magneto and Genosha, and there's all of these political reasons why they couldn't engage, and I just always remember that being the first powerful image from that artist. So for me, I can't but get excited that he's back to drawing Cap. I do get what you're saying though about looking like he has dead eyes. I mean, because again, he does another like full page spread, and it's a great looking issue of Cap. But yeah, he's just got wide eyes. It's like you're not drawing Batman. It's Captain America. You gotta see those baby blues.
And like the action scenes look great. Like he's a very visceral artist, and I think that's not a bad thing. Like it's all good stuff.
Right.
I don't know. Like Cap's dead eyes. There's something. It's like there's a couple of panels here where you can see his pupils, and I'm like, all right, there we go. But it's just, I don't know. It's like off-putting. I'm like, I don't want to see your dead eyes, Cap.
Yeah, no, I get that critique. But yeah, one thing I love about this particular artist is, I guess, like how he tackles technology. Like anytime he's doing like a space comic, I love how he draws like ships and like seeing these helicopters. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it looks cool as hell. And it looks, like, believable. Like, I could see this being cutting-edge, technology that our government may be using.
Yeah, I gotta say he draws a good General Ross. It's a good-looking old man general.
Yeah. And while he's in it briefly, I do really appreciate seeing Bucky, and I love how he looks. He kind of has his own panel there where he's got his like sharpshooter sniper sci-fi gun.
Yeah, so that's what I like too. It seems like we're going in more of a direction of a Brubaker style,
right?
Up until the end when we find out who the villain is, which I feel like is a little more.
It's a deep
less
cut.
Grounded. Yeah, it's a deep cut, less grounded than the Brubaker stuff for the most part. But like, I think You is a good fit. It's definitely a darker story than the Waid stuff. So I feel like I'm excited. I'm okay with the artwork. My first reaction was probably just a gut reaction to the dead-eyed Cap.
Sure.
If he starts throwing pupils in there, I'll probably be good.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that as well. You know, I love. How do you say it? It's not Samney. It's Simi.
I've heard Somni.
Okay.
Chris Somni. You kind of just blur it all together. Chris Somni.
Okay. So for Chris Somni, I love his art, and I love what they did with Daredevil. But I try to imagine this comic with his art, and I somehow can't really quite get the two to be on the same page. No pun intended.
Yeah.
I mean, it would look great. I don't know if it would fit like tonally. But I do agree that this is definitely a nod or a step in the direction of the Ed Brubaker run. Kind of having like a, despite saying how like, oh, he draws really cool spaceships, the art's very grounded. And
it's all one artist. This whole comic book was done by a single artist.
I know that, and that's rare.
That makes me more excited than it should. Yeah.
Well, that's, it's, it's continuity. You need that consistency because I'm trying to find a good example. I mean, can you imagine switching cinematographers in a movie?
Yeah, or just like even more drastic. It's almost like in some cases, like during Secret Empire, when there was like drastic shifts, it was like shifting mediums. It's like going from live action to CG or something. Like,
yeah, it's a hand puppets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's like changing, or it's basically more like changing actors mid scene.
Yeah, I think that metaphor works. I do like the consistency of the art. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm just kind of just glancing over the panels here, and yeah, you're right. When Cap's got the pupils going, it really kind of hits home that you're looking at the Steve Rogers we've all come to know and love.
He draws an aged person quite well. Old Sharon Carter, like those hands. Those are old woman hands.
Yeah,
and her like eyes. Like Cap's got a bunch of lines and stuff because that's just how he draws. But then when you look at Sharon, she is aged.
It's believable, and I like how that she doesn't look decrepit like the way I've seen her depicted in other comics. Like it still looks like she could kick some ass.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is nice.
I also got to say my favorite part is in Cap's home gym. He has what looks like a bench press machine with like 8,000 pound machinery on each side.
I did like that. It kind of reminded me of something I'd seen actually in a Superman comic, or maybe even Superman the Animated Series, where Star Labs is trying to test just what the limits are for Superman's strength, just like pounds upon pounds of weight. But yeah, it's sort of, and that's actually done very well. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying about how you draws like tech, because I feel like having something with like a bunch of weights and somebody bench lifting it or finishing up bench lifting would be goofy as hell. But yet he kind of makes it look like intimidating. Like it doesn't look foolish or like cartoony. Like it almost looks intimidating. They're like these weird like circular octagon things.
I was like that. It just shows him sitting on the bench. Like he's already done. He's like, ugh.
Yeah.
What now?
Yeah. Gonna go stare at a blank TV. because nobody broods better. Well, that might be a stretch, but Steve's a good brooder. But yeah, so I think now that I think that kind of might be a good way to kind of segue into the writing of the comic itself, and the overall, I guess, sort of its exposition and plot, and I think first issues can be hard. I kind of think of first issues as like the pilot for a TV show. Because I mean, you gotta get me hook, line, and sinker. And sometimes, whether it be a TV show or a comic, I guess I'm lazy. Like, I don't want to put in too much effort. Like, I don't want to be, it really picks up issue 7. Like, God, I gotta read 6 issues. Like,
yeah, I feel you. That's actually kind of why I fell off of Black Panther when Ta-Nehisi Coates was writing it, just because you can tell with this that he's definitely learned from that experience, and he's less wordy, which I feel like a lot of new comic book writers write. It's almost like an Alan Moore comic. There's just so much. Like, I remember when I first read Guardian Devil by Kevin Smith, and I'm like, oh my God, dude. Yeah. Like, you don't have to write this much.
Yeah, I think it's...
And that's kind of how I felt with the first Black Panther. And he also used a lot of deep cut political terms, and is just... As somebody who's not the most politically literate as far as like futuristic African society politics, I guess, it wasn't the easiest to follow.
Right. And I think it's going to be hard for someone who is, their career was writing essays. I think to kind of not just like shifting gears in how you're, telling a story. Because I feel like an essay, while it can be, based on truth or opinion, it's still kind of crafting how you're explaining this narrative. So I think kind of switching gears from that to a comic book, I mean, that's going to be quite the transition, I would think. Because,
yeah, for sure.
But I do agree that there is definitely more experience here with the writing. And the start is where it's somewhere in Russia, the Cyan Mountains.
Yeah, somewhere in Russia.
Yeah, somewhere in Russia. And of course, I always get excited whenever I see, I don't know, Hydra bad guys. And I know that might seem like a contradiction. I'm contradicting myself by saying, kind of exhausting certain plot points, too frequently. But Hydra's a nice blanket, I think, for these type of stories, because it's just like this never-ending evil.
Yeah.
Conglomerate.
And with Captain America specifically, it's like every time Batman fights the Joker, it's like, yeah, he's there all the time, but he's there.
Yeah, I'm always excited when I see him. Always. But yeah, of course it's, it looks like it's like a convoy. They got like a prisoner in the back seat. Explosions ensue. So they're being attacked. Mysterious hooded figure. And it's kind of funny, when I first read this, the narrative, I actually thought it was the girl's narrative that I was reading.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
So it kind of has like a slight hiccup when you see that it isn't, because I wasn't hearing Steve's voice. So when I read it a second time, I kind of had to try to remind myself that this is Cap speaking from the beginning. But yeah, we have a hooded female powerful villain who's taken out all of these Hydra tanks. And I think it's kind of a nice cold open, when you see like one villain take out another villain with incredible ease.
Yeah. They're all really cool panels too.
Yeah, they are, because they just tear out. I mean, she tears through those I don't know, Hydra trucks like nothing. And here is a good example where this character, you don't see her pupils, and it works because
exactly,
she's evil. Like clad in black leather, black cape, no pupils, perfect.
I got no beef with that. She's not Captain America.
Right.
It's like if somebody drew Wonder Woman without pupils, you'd be like, come on.
Yeah. And actually, one thing I'll say, speaking of eyes, on that same page, you also have a close-up of a Hydra soldier looking terrified. And it's one of the rare times, I think, where you could see a Hydra. I don't know.
As a human,
Yeah, and just seeing the eyes through the goggles
humanizes them. Yeah,
yeah. So I thought that because they just kind of always look like they're like the red shirts for Star Trek. They're just just like stormtroopers. So I think kind of having a humanized moment there of oh shit, what did I get myself into? Yeah, it was like a really cool open. It's just enough to kind of get your attention. Don't know what the hell's going on. I didn't know who this particular person was at first. So I was like, all right, we'll keep reading, see what's going on. And the next panel, you get Nuke, or what you think is Nuke.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was like, all right, cool, Nuke's back.
Yeah, I was like, this is really cool. And what I love too, and again, this is speaking to the artwork, is the rage in this Nuke's face. And again, no pupil, and it works. Mm-hmm. And the rain of like bullets, or the shell casings kind of falling in front of his face is such a dynamic panel. And again, it's like Sullivan's like, okay, all right, I'm liking where this is going. Laying down the track successfully. And this is just cool because it's just always great to see Cap in action. Throwing the shield around, knocking out these, and we see here that there's more than one nuke. There's nukes, and now that I look at the Captain America panel without the pupils, it is a little disarming. Just because the other times we didn't see pupils, it was clearly because they were,
yeah, I don't know,
bad
it's just
guys.
Something about the no pupils. It just dehumanizes whatever you're looking at.
Right, and I feel like with the exception of Batman, because that's sort of what he's going for,
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. And what's kind of interesting about this story is that it kind of carries on through the tradition of Captain America trying to get back in the swing of things, because he's always just missing shit. Like whether he gets thrown into the ocean and he's in ice for decades, or he gets thrown into another dimension and he's gone for years and comes back and he's like, oh, what did I miss? And then he gets sucked into a cube and comes back and is like, oh, what did I miss? Oh, everyone doesn't trust me anymore? Cool. And I think that's sort of the overall theme for, I'm assuming it's going to be the theme for this arc, is like sort of Cap, I think, trying to win back people's trust.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, exactly. At the end, they kind of lay that out more heavily with General Ross, but I like to hear how he's just like, he's like, a version of these men once respected me in a weird way. And then they just start spraying them down.
Yeah, and it's funny because, it's really interesting because it's like, if you, weren't familiar with this comic, you would kind of wonder, well, who's supposed to be the good guy here? Because both parties are wearing red, white, and blue.
Mm-hmm.
Like how,
and even, I was going to say, I like how in this too, they're like angry at Cap. They call him the captain of nothing, basically, because like
I love that
he betrayed America, and in their weird warped nuke ideals, they're also for America still.
Right. Yeah, no, I did like that because Cap was always kind of able to sort of talk Nuke down, but he can't with these guys. And I love kind of being in Cap's mind because it's not also just taking down the enemy, but it's also kind of being aware of the people around you and not just making sure that they're safe, but even in the act of saving them, he's still trying to convey that message because he says, I tell Bucky to put down as many as he can, and I know the cost of that. I know who's watching, and you see this kid watching from the sidelines, and first of all, when you first see that kid, his dad had been shot. He's sitting up against a car. He clearly has, 2 massive bullet wounds in his chest.
Yeah, it looks like his lungs are just bleeding out.
Oh my god, yeah, it's pretty intense. So this is a lot for, this kid to see. And there were some great Cap one-liners here too, where he says, I took an oath to the flag and I die before I betrayed it. Yeah, and then they said, well, then die, captain of nothing. But yeah, it's great, and I'm always happy to see Bucky. And I hope that with this arc, we don't have another case where Bucky is just like a pawn, or
Yeah, I like when he's a proper sidekick.
Right.
Like if we have Sharon and Bucky throughout this arc as kind of Cap's confidants and stuff, even though towards the end of the issue we kind of find out that the government wants kind of everybody but Cap to help out.
Yeah, I think it'd be great just to see Bucky not, I guess sort of you don't want to see Bucky kind of become a damsel again, where it's like, like he's kidnapped, he's killed, sort of, or he's brainwashed again. Like I just would like to see him as well as Sharon not just be, plot points, like a thing to save.
Yeah, to be part of the team.
Right. So, but yeah. So then, of course, the scene gets resolved. Sharon shows up in the cool high-tech helicopters, and they get some, Stark tech lays out like some sort of like magnetic
EMP field something or whatever.
Yeah, and
apparently those guys were cyborgs. So
right, so I guess it doesn't. Yeah, or I don't know. But I did like that. You see these guys kind of going off in like an explosion of blue, white, like lightning bolts, and and it's weird. It looks like the way it's drawn. It looks like somebody's talking from the helicopter, being, "Oh, the perfect weapon against an army of cyborgs," and Bucky's like, "Or a single cyborg like me, you guys."
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for remembering. Cap's like, "Hey man, I warned you." I kind of wonder if this is going to be like a Chekhov's gun, like if this tech might come in use later down the line in this arc. But one of my favorite parts of this comic is actually when Cap's talking to the kid, the same kid who was watching the sidelines and his dad was shot. When he tells the kid, "I need you to keep being brave for him, and not just for him, young man, for me too, for all of us. And I love that. I love little Cap moments like that.
Yeah. This whole scene was a good kind of setup for Cap, basically to confirm that we have proper Cap back.
Right, and what's great is that what follows that is the image of, like the fire engines and the ambulance and the police cars, and you see Cap with firemen helping people. Like looks like he's helping like a pilot or something, and you also see Bucky being, which I like that kind of Bucky's out of the shadows, like he's being very present. He's carrying someone who's clearly wounded. You see Sharon in there, so I do like that. That like Bucky's not this, I don't know, tortured in the shadow spy. I mean, you still get glimpses of that, but I think seeing him, the sunlight is reflecting off of his arm. It's such a nice, warm image.
Yeah, he's grown out of the killer machine.
Right.
Which is good, because when was that arc? 12 years ago?
Yeah.
Or something even longer, probably.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, it's a great panel. And again, I just think it's great that we see this after Cap saying that, you need to keep being brave, and not just for, your dad or me, but all of us. And I kind of feel like that Cap's kind of saying that to us too, just because I feel like no matter where you are politically, it's definitely an interesting time.
Yep.
So I definitely kind of feel like Cap is he's talking to us as well. And speaking of politics, there are definitely some nods and jabs to Trump in this. And I think my favorite being is that was it Baron Strucker is like working for the White House.
Yeah. That basically all these like villains basically like, hey, we didn't like the bad guys too. Right. Like I love, what was it? When Cap's watching the news, the White House praised Von Strucker for aiding in the destruction of several Hydra splinter groups. It's like, the White House praised Von Strucker. It's like, well, it's not too far outside of the realm of, possibility. And that kind of ties in well to,
Thaddeus, Thunderbolt, Ross showing up. Um, and I love, Cap's like, oh god, what the hell is this guy doing here? um, and it's a good exposition about how, what was it, that he had led a bunch of resistors against Hydra, and that's sort of what kind of got him cleared, I guess, and that is also applicable to Bucky as well, that he's kind of now has like a clean slate.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely helpful exposition, just so I kind of understood the state of Captain America.
Right, yeah, and I think it's just kind of showing, I guess, sort of the state of things post Secret Empire.
Because if you think about coming in blind, like you never read Secret Empire, and just like the thought of people not liking Captain America is so weird.
Right, yeah.
Because like he's like the constant. It's like, why do people not like Captain America? What's he ever done?
Right. Well, yeah. No, it's actually, and it's a nice bit of exposition that doesn't feel like it's blatant exposition. I thought that was well written, and I like that how kind of respectful Ross is of Cap. Like, hey, you're always going to be my Captain America. One thing I will say, slightly off topic, the panel where they're all looking at the Washington Monument, and there's like the rubble and the smoke, and then there's Sharon's ass. It's like, whatever age she's supposed to be,
she keeps up on her squat regimen.
I know, she's still packing heat. I was just like, wow, all right, there it is.
That's, you can't have a comic book
right
without that, I guess.
I just thought it was worth mentioning. We were talking about, oh yeah, it's just like the way her hands are drawn and the face and that ass.
She's so old, except there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she's, yeah, like the face of Mother Teresa and the ass of a Kardashian. But yeah, so then we kind of get more of the exposition between Ross and Cap about how, Cap being like, hey, anything I can do, and Ross is like, yeah, that's cool, but I need actually Agent 13 and Bucky. And even she's like, what? Has anyone not seen my face? Do I look like I should be in the field? And even Cap is like, is this about Hydra using my face? Yeah, and Ross says that, like, well, it's also just about, the colors you're sporting, which is kind of very, interesting, given, that you just had a bunch of dudes who were jacked up with the American flag paints on their face shooting people, and he's like, yeah, we've got a group of terrorist super soldiers wearing the American flag. Appearances matter. So it's interesting where, it's that Cap's like, it's not just you, it's just like the message that you're presenting, even if like the message is our symbol of freedom.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. An entire country just went through some crazy ass shit. Right.
So yeah, and it's fine just because, because Cap is, he was wearing that uniform well before all of this. And now this one event has sort of kind of jeopardized everything. It's like, it's like telling Cap, don't be Cap. Be Nomad. Get that deep.
Yeah. Guys, don't be Cap.
Yeah, and just get that deep V. We want to see this.
Deep V, big collar. He had a big collar, didn't he?
I think he did. I just remember the mask, and he had the crazy deep plunging.
I guess it's not a collar. He has a cape. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Well, I mean,
that's hard to call it a deep V. That's basically, it goes down to his belt.
Yeah.
That is such like a 1970s WWE wrestler look.
Oh, yeah. Does his cape have a big collar, or is it just like a big, like,
no, it's just like two flopping cape.
I mean, because collars were big. You look at Doctor Strange and Vision, it would only make sense that Cap would have one. Or Nomad.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I do kind of like, further on in the comic, it does kind of touch on, again, events that happened before, events that you might not be aware of if you hadn't read it, or even if you had read it and you forgot. Like, I totally forgot Black Widow died.
Yeah, same here. That shows how much of an impact that story made.
I mean, just like
killing off one of the mainstays of the friggin' universe and don't even remember.
Yeah, I mean, because there's the overhead shot where you have the Miles Morales Spider-Man and Cap looking down at Black Widow, and it's like, oh, right, I sort of remember that. I mean, spoiler alert, that whole comic sucked. So,
not a fan.
You can't blame us for not liking it. But yeah, so Cap, he's in an interesting position because he has a lot to answer for things that he didn't do, and there is a nice bit that Sharon says about how, these things weren't done. These are things that you didn't do. These are things that were done to you. This is about what was done to you, not what you failed to do. And don't forget, you saved us just as you always do. Is the actual line. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's like a lot of like inspiration from even the Captain America and Avengers movies as well. Like definitely Steve Rogers of Winter Soldier and Civil War, just kind of being very pensive and trying to absorb this kind of crazy new world that he's in again. Just kind of and tons of people, plenty of pupils.
Yeah, we get him outside of costume, plenty of people. I'm down for that. Looks like a good military man.
He does. That jawline, hot damn. And one thing I like too about this is that we also kind of get to see that Steve wasn't the only victim in this. That Sharon says that, I was stranded in, Arnhem's hell for years. I came back and I was old and no new young body for me. And then the monster impersonated the only man I've ever loved. Listen, I bear the scars. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. I love that. My God, Steve, he touched me. I just love that kind of brief moment of weakness where you kind of see that, that it wasn't all just things that were done to Cap or done in the name of Cap and people being senselessly murdered like Black Widow. And believe me, that was senseless. But yeah, I just thought that was like a nice touch as well. And again, good exposition that doesn't feel like it's the sake of exposition.
Yeah. And it's good kind of helping Secret Empire seem like a better story than it was.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think Cap, like all of us, sort of have to bear the fact that we live in a world where that happened.
Yeah.
I mean...
I wish we could just forget about it. I wish it was one of those events that came and went, and like once in a while somebody mentioned something like Fear Itself or something like that, or there's some events where there's like barely anything.
World War Hulk?
Yeah, World War Hulk. Literally just nobody mentions it at all. And
that was fucking devastating. There was way more collateral damage in that than...
Yeah.
But in some ways, though, I do like that they're addressing it because I feel like they owe me. Because I didn't just read Secret Empire. I read the Captain America issues that accompanied Secret Empire. Like,
I tried to read those Captain America issues.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's just not good. So I kind of feel like, you know what? Yeah, you sit in your filth, Marvel.
Also, when that came out, I think that issue with Cap came out at like the exact same time that DC released Rebirth. And I just remember being like, well, I guess I'll just read DC for a while. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's exactly what happened. I mean, I slowly was kind of dropping Marvel titles one by one. Because Secret Wars part, I don't know, what was that, the third Secret Wars they did? I mean, it was a nice way to kind of end things, and then it was just sort of kind of sad how shitty the comics were after that. Mm-hmm. But, and then we're coming into another great part of this comic about, to hold on to the dream in the face of chaos, how hard it is to be truly American. I always love
issues where Cap is kind of questioning being American and what it means to be American, and you know, we have forgotten the true freedom is a problem, a question, not an answer. Freedom from what, for what? And having lost our way in the storm, we found shelter. An anecdote for the chaos. Yeah, I just love when Cap kind of gets deep, and that he's just not blindly, patriotic, red, white, and blue. And I'm glad that has always kind of stayed with Cap since his literal resurrection in the 60s after Kennedy died, questioning the Vietnam War and, going back to Dresden and questioning the bombs we dropped there. And, I love that Cap, he's loyal to the dream, and doesn't have any kind of blind allegiance. And it's kind of great that you see, kind of Cap helping this woman, but she's afraid of Cap. He's there to protect her, and she's clearly afraid of him. Like she's like even kind of like cover up,
but holding herself up against one of the burglars,
right? And the way her hand is positioned over her face, like, oh god, I hope he doesn't see me. But then you also have a nice panel where it looks like he's trying to help her, and then it's like she's running away. And yeah, I thought it was great. And of course you get this, kind of running parallel to, you go back to the blonde girl, Alexa apparently is her name, and then you have the other villain who now has pupils, a little bit more humanized, and you get the blindfolded Hydra dude, and she sucks the life out of him, becomes a steaming bag of bones, and she's like, Hydra is dead, the future belongs to us. So yeah, that was basically the issue. And there's definitely a lot to unpack. I love that, you obviously have the clear-cut comic book villain, but you have all of these problems that were I guess, like a pre-existing condition before these two came along, which I like. Yeah.
Also, they are clearly villains, but they technically haven't done anything like evil yet.
Right, because
like they killed a bunch of Hydra agents, which
it's like basically Nazis.
Exactly. So everybody's like, whatever, they're Hydra agents, who cares?
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do. So there was that one thing where is it? When he's looking at the news and they mention that Dr. Celine Gallio is like the chair of a newly formed task force.
Ooh.
Is that the same Celine?
I don't.
Her name?
It is Celine, and we kind of get the confirmation when she sucks the energy out of the guy. And Celine is an X-Men villain, a New Mutants villain. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That
that is the same person that was on the news. Ooh. She's in charge of a task force in the White House.
Great, and also, not straying too far from reality. Yeah, I did see. That's great. I always kind of like when they do, like when they kind of have somebody else's villain show up in another comic. So it's kind of cool that Celine's in there. Still don't know who the other blonde Alexa is, but clearly trouble's a brewing.
She's not wearing the typical corset lingerie of the Hellfire Club.
Yeah, she
must have a different origin.
Right, or maybe it's she's a strong, independent woman of the modern day. She's not. She's the Black Queen of her own club, I think. She's not. She ain't taking orders from no man. But yeah, I think this is definitely an exciting start. And I think tonally, kind of know what we're in for, and I do like the political undertones in this, and that for me don't feel like I'm kind of getting hit over the head.
Yeah, it's definitely got the whole, like, I like the whole idea of people are questioning like what it is to be American, or even the idea of America which is such parallels to what's going on now with so many people just being like, I don't know what to believe in anymore. Everything's so fucking crazy.
Well, and I especially like the Cap's like, freedom from what, for what? People are always like, oh yeah, like, freedom, and these people, they gave their lives for freedom, and it's like, well, I mean, like, I get, World War II, but you look at some of the past wars, and it's like, was our freedom in jeopardy?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting a little too deep, but that's sort of how I feel that kind of question is directed. Like, well, what exactly are we free from? It's a nice saying, but what does it mean to be free? And are we even free? Because, I mean, I think Cap in a lot of ways kind of represents the things that we're supposed to take comfort in and trust. But we can't for obvious reasons, like I think, having that woman being afraid of Cap, you have the strong white man in a uniform, and she's black, and I feel that's sort of reminiscent of what's happening with the police right now, and sort of how, it is, with all this body cam footage of people being, mistreated and shot when, the excessive force wasn't needed in the situations that we've seen. So I wonder if that is sort of kind of playing a part in this as well.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's all. This is all like a good compliment outside of the comic book, because it's just there's so much stuff you can read into, but nothing is just like bashed over your head. Right. Like there's subtlety being used, which is always welcome.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And, and we see that, it's no Cap punching Hitler in the face, but I feel like it's definitely in the same, in the same vein.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I'm very happy with this comic because, I had said, actually, I think it was the last episode we were talking about X-Men and saying how, the X-Men aren't as good as they used to be, and I feel like it was because, the X-Men didn't really feel like they were kind of tackling the social issues that the comic was known for. And I've been rereading X-Men from, the Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, 1963, and I'm, currently in the Chris Claremont 80s X-Men and New Mutants, and I feel like there's always been points where there's political commentary, some blatant, others not so much, but I feel like it's a constant. And with Captain America, as we were mentioning earlier, I mean, his origin is just soaked in politics and commentary of society at the time that I feel like it's almost like a crime to not have Cap do that. I mean, not to say that you like have to have, kind of Cap always boo-hooing this, like the state of things, but I just, I think it's great that that they're kind of coming back to that.
And when it's done right, it's a powerful thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And not to say that Mark Waid didn't kind of have that, because he was addressing it as well, which I kind of liked about him going across country and talking to people and being in the diner and, kind of getting a feel for where everyone's at. And I like that there are some people out there who, still trust and believe Cap, but that overall, not everyone's kind of sold on this idea of, who Captain America really is. Because, you think about any time you have someone who is accused of something, even if they're found innocent, that image, I feel like, is forever tainted. Because, I feel like they're always going to be associated with this thing that happened.
Yeah, and being an evil Nazi-esque dictator is probably it's not a good look. Yeah,
it doesn't look good on anybody, but especially Steve Rogers. So this, I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and give it an A+, this first issue, even minus the pupils, because I don't know. I think you were more deeply traumatized than I was by that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely in it to win it. Keep going with it. I don't know if I'd give it an A+. give it like an A minus.
Okay.
The pupils were they were there. It was affecting.
Yeah. I think A minus is good. If you were said like no pupils, C plus, I'd be like, get the hell out of here.
No, it was a good comic. Definitely not like an A plus comic to me is like Rebirth. That comic was like a perfect comic book.
Who's Rebirth?
Just the first issue of Rebirth, the DC one, introduced the whole.
That was a good comic, and
whereas like I feel like this is just a really good first issue. Like it's gonna keep you in it, keep reading it.
Right. Yeah. DC was, you gotta give credit where it's due. I feel like DC did what Marvel was trying to do in one issue.
Yeah.
So
a big issue, but still very, very well done.
Right. With one artist.
Mm-hmm. And hey, this has one artist. I'm in it. Let's hope they can release it once a month.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, if they can kind of be on schedule, that'd be great. But I'd say that as of now, all things point towards this being a pretty rad arc.
I'm excited to see the villains too. I like when people just grab people from the B-sides of the universe and just do cool stuff with them. Make C-list villains A-list villains. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like when you do that, you never really see it coming because when you read a Cap comic, you're like, okay, am I going to see Batroc? Am I going to see Red Skull? Am I going to see Baron Zemo? I never would have guessed Selene. Yeah, ever. So, that also is something else that I really appreciate this comic for. So yeah, the consensus is Captain America issue 1 by I don't have the page up because I don't want to butcher his name again. Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates? Yes. Ta-Nehisi Coates and Leno Francis Yu. Yeah, it's a great start. Yeah. For all the Captain America fans out there, I'm sure you have already read this, but solid. Yeah. And if you haven't, definitely check it out. And it was kind of fun doing an issue review, not so much an arc. We can definitely get into the nitty-gritty of things. Yeah, the pupils of things. Yeah. There's your title, Captain America, the People of Things. Or, I don't know. Yeah, I'll stop there. But yeah, that is going to do it for us here on Wednesday at chronospeakeasy.com. Feel free to give us some feedback on what you thought about Captain America. You can reach us at WednesdayComicPodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're not hard to find. So yeah, definitely reach out. And as always, enjoy your issues.